Yo, welcome into episode 7 of the Patriots podcast. I'm your host, Beej.com, Beethoven, whatever you want to call me. Uh Thanks y'all for tuning in. Episode 7, man. We making our way, probably try to do a little something special on episode 10, hit those little milestones. But I appreciate everybody for the support. Continue to like, subscribe, share, comment on the videos. Today we're gonna talk about a little Patriots draft notes, stuff from the combine. We're going to get into the Boston Herald report by Andrew Callahan and Doug Kyde that had a lot of good, interesting nuggets in it. And just overall off-season, big picture things. Some that have to do with the Patriots and some that don't. So let's get right into it. Obviously, this past week has been the NFL draft. So a lot of interesting things that come from that. Before we get into the draft, though, let's talk about a little bit of free agency. And how some of these things that have happened in free agency will affect the Patriots and how they decide to draft and how they kind of are going to look at the draft. So first and foremost, let's talk about a couple of free agents that we've talked about in the past and news that has happened since we talked about it. So we have Trey Smith, the guard from the Chiefs, the All-Pro guard from the Chiefs, has been non-exclusively franchise tagged. So that completely takes him off. No shot that the Patriots get him. I wasn't extremely high on getting Trey Smith. I don't think guard is like a glaring need to go pay someone top dollar at because we have Mike Unwinno on one side and Landon Robinson on the other. City So, Cole Strange, first round pick, Cole Strange on the left side. So I wasn't, ready to give a left or right, wherever they decided to play him. I wasn't ready to give a guard a bunch of money. So I'm not too upset about that. T. Higgins is still out there. There was talks that they were going to franchise tag him, but they didn't yet, or they haven't yet. So it's going to be interesting. A lot of people around the league feel as if he's not going to be available and that they're going to get a deal done. But the fact that he hasn't been franchise tagged yet is interesting. Ronnie Stanley, same, hasn't been franchise tagged yet, hasn't signed a new deal. A lot of people around the league believe that the Ravens are going to be able to get a deal done for him, but hopefully the Patriots give him more money than the Ravens because you have to overpay in free agency, and left tackle is a position that they need to shore up. And getting someone like Ronnie Stanley brings a veteran in the room, brings an all-pro caliber player to be that bookend for Drake May on that offensive line, even if it's for 2-3 years. That gives them time to develop, younger left tackles, whether that be a Will Campbell or Ariante Ursary or somebody that they draft in the later rounds because they have shored up that left tackle position. Let's take a look. Let's see, we got so maybe not exactly Patriots oriented, but Matthew Stafford. Um, he re-signed with the Rams. They gave him a deal. I'm not sure of the specifics of the deal yet, but they gave him a new deal. So that means that he's off the market for some of those teams that were looking for a quarterback to go out and get, such as the Titans, the Browns, or the Giants, who all draft before the Patriots. So what does that mean, right? That means that now these teams may overdraft one of these quarterbacks that they may not have necessarily wanted to draft because Matthew Stafford's off the market. Now you still have Kirk Cousins potentially. You still have Sam Darnold potentially that are out there as veteran quarterbacks. You still have Aaron Rodgers as well. So one of those three teams could get, one of those guys still. But as of right now, it's probably looking like they're in the market to draft a quarterback. And that means that either a Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter could fall to the Patriots at 4, to which you run that card up to Robert Goodell. And either one of those guys, you draft them because those are the two best players in this draft. So a couple of other free agency notes. Like I said, we were going to talk about the Boston Herald report. So I just wanted to take a small nugget out of that report on some things that were interested. It basically said that there's a rumor that the Patriots covet Jets linebacker Jamian Sherwood, who fits the prototypical Vrabel linebacker. Basically, he's 6'2", 216, so that's like safety height and weight. but he hits harder. He hits like a linebacker. He plays like a linebacker. He has that physical and mentality of a linebacker. He's just a little bit smaller and faster, and that's somebody that Vrabel and defensive coordinator Terrell Williams are interested in. It sounds like they are interested in the Vikings quarterback Byron Murphy, which I would be happy about. He would be a good complement to Christian Gonzalez. And they're also interested in Jets cornerback DJ Reed. Absolutely not. I watch the Jets. Anytime the Jets play the Patriots, DJ Reed is terrible. I've seen DJ Reed be terrible against. I've never seen him have a good game, so I don't know why they would even covet DJ Reed. I hope not. Here's the most interesting nugget, though, that I wanted to talk about from that piece in regards to free agency. These are a couple of players that the Patriots are apparently not going to be in on, and that's Eagles defensive end Josh Sweat, who I've mentioned over the past two episodes that I would love to be on the team, especially based on his performance in the Super Bowl. So that's a little disappointing. Bills receiver Amari Cooper. I mean, if you could get Amari Cooper on a veteran, maybe not a veteran minimum, but a team friendly deal, I would be happy with Amari Cooper. So hopefully they do end up kicking the tires on Amari Cooper, but not mad about that too much. Texans receiver Stephon Diggs, I never saw that happening to begin with. Stephon Diggs is too big of a personality, too much of a quote unquote diva receiver than the Patriots have ever really showed interest in outside of Randy Moss and Chad Ochocinco. Um, and obviously he's over 30, so I don't anticipate them even looking Stephon Diggs' way. They're not interested in Chargers outside linebacker Khalil Mack, which is also not surprising just due to Khalil Mack's age. His output, you know, he's not the same Khalil Mack that we grew up on, so I'm not really too surprised that they're not interested in Khalil Mack. So the only one that I was really, let down about this one is defensive end Josh Sweat. It also talks about how they're not, um, apparently they're not going to want to trade for T Higgins. Now, if T Higgins becomes available, then yes, they're willing to offer him a contract. But if they plan on tagging him and then tag and trade, the Patriots are probably going to be out because they don't want to give up draft capital and a new contract. So which would kind of be the same for DK Metcalf as well. So I don't anticipate, contrary to what I said on the last episode, I don't anticipate the Patriots going out and getting a bona fide number one X receiver in free agency. That's going to change the whole dynamic of the team because, quite frankly, that player might not exist in free agency. Now, you still have some guys like Chris Godwin who they're anticipated to go after, and Cooper Kupp, which I could absolutely see them signing if he ends up being a cut candidate and the Rams actually cut him. I don't anticipate them trading anything for him, but definitely somebody that I could see on the team if he ends up getting cut by the Rams. Um, Not surprised that they weren't in on Debo Samuels either. I just don't think Josh McDaniels, wants the kind of player that like Debo Samuels. He probably wouldn't use him to his full strength. So not surprised on that. A little surprised that he went for just a fifth. It seems lower than most people anticipated, but the Commanders took on his entire contract. So I could see why a fifth was the compensation because Commanders are paying him all of the money. Now, if there's something you could do for a DK Metcalf where you give the Seahawks a fourth or a fifth and just say, yeah, we'll pay him the money, then yeah, you do that. But it's not a scenario that I see happening. So that's just a couple of nuggets from the Boston Herald report by Andrew Callahan and Doug Hyde. Excellent work. I watched their podcast episode reviewing it, just a lot of information that they got while being at the draft. So that's excellent work by them. First time I've read a newspaper article in a long time. So it was obviously good enough for me to go subscribe to the Boston Herald and read it. So if you have any interest in that, head over to the Boston Herald and read the report or go listen to their podcast. Um, Now we can get into the combine, right? So I watched a little bit of the combine, but mostly was just following little things like measurements, 40-yard times, and all that. The only 40s I watched were receivers and running backs. That's the most interesting. Um, so the main topic of the combine for the Patriots was Will Campbell's arm length, right? how long was his arms, right? So the minimum that people usually go for a star offensive tackle is 33-inch arms. That's kind of the new norm. And I think it gets reset every couple of years because somebody will come in with shorter arms and it goes from 35 to 34, 34 to 33, because people come in with shorter arms, but they still excel. They're still all pro bowls, whatever the case may be. So, like I said, the minimum is 33. Everybody anticipated Will Campbell coming in and under that or right at it. So his official arm length was 32 and 5/8 inches, which is well beneath the 33-inch threshold that everybody has set for offensive tackles. So that's going to be interesting how the Patriots evaluate that or how the rest of the league evaluates that, because the tape shows that he can perform at a high level at tackle. But if you're going based off of the measurables and if that's such a big deal to you, then that 32 and 5/8 is a really big deal. So now they probably go back to the drawing board and really, really have to dig into the tape and see if his arms have been a weakness in his college game. And I'm not an offensive line guru by no means. When I turn on LSU games, Will Campbell does great. He's only allowed like 3 sacks in his entire career. So that doesn't bother me. But I'm a University of Texas fan. I'm a little bit biased. Kelvin Banks Jr.'s measurables, as far as height, weight, and everything, were all pretty relative and pretty close to Will Campbell. But he had over 33-inch arms. So now I wonder, does Kelvin Banks get looked at as a better tackle prospect than Will Campbell? And if people still believe that Will Campbell will be a guard, I think the Kelvin Banks being a guard talk is out the window because of his arm length. And it's crazy how a half an inch or like not even a full inch can really determine if people view a offensive tackle who played offensive tackle their whole life as a guard in the NFL. It's pretty crazy. So that's the biggest story for the Patriots as far as the combine thus far, because Will Campbell seemed like the most obvious pick at 4. Granted, he had the measurables to be an NFL tackle. Another prospect for the Patriots, maybe not at 4, but if the Patriots decide to trade down, is Tetaroa McMillan from Arizona. Just watching some draft stuff, I heard that he doesn't like being called Tet McMillan. So he likes T-Mac or Tetaroa. So I'm going to just say T-Mac. It's a little bit easier. But yeah, T-Mac didn't participate in the drills at the combine. He didn't run. And I think a lot of people are speculating he didn't run because he might go out there and run up 4.6, 4.7. And now that hurts his draft stock. So he's just betting on the tape. I need to see if he's going to do a pro day, but I think he's just feels like it's in his best interest to just let the tape speak for itself and let the people evaluate the tape instead of giving him more things to pick at, such as a 40 time. Kind of the same way that Drake London did a couple years ago, which worked out for him because he went in the first round to Atlanta. So I can't blame him from that. It would have been good to see him get out there and catch some passes at 40 times or whatever, because you could see the tape and see that he's not the fastest guy in the world. So it'll be interesting to see how the league analyzes T-Mac in that regard. I think he's still first round talent. I think he's still WR1. But it'll be interesting because a lot of the receivers went out and showed their ass in the combine. Most specifically, Matthew Golden. I mean, he looked incredible. He had an incredible performance. He had the fastest 40 time for the receivers with a 4.29. Shout out University of Texas. Isaiah Bond was talking about he was going to break the record. He was going to run a 4.2, maybe a 4.1 if he's feeling good. I'm like, nothing about Isaiah Bond said that he was going to run a 4.2, and he went out there and ran a 4.4. So, which is still plenty fast, still great NFL speed, but don't do that, guy. Like, that makes you look crazy. And now your teammate went and outran you by a lot. So pretty embarrassing for Isaiah Bond. But again, like I said, 4.4 is still plenty fast. But Matthew Golden went out and easily, rose his stock. He's definitely going to be a top 20 pick now, I believe. If it wasn't for T Mac being on the board, I think he would be the first receiver taken. even before the Ohio State guy and Luther Burden, who also had a great combine. I think he ran 4.4. So receivers showed out, running back showed out. Um, I don't think it means that much for the Patriots per se, because I don't think if they don't take T Mac early, I don't think they're going to take a receiver until the second round. I don't think they trade back up for a receiver either. But to that, a guy who really interested me at the draft was Jaden, or not the draft, but the combine is Jaden Higgins from Ohio, or Iowa State. I was impressed, man. Every time I seen he ran a good 40. I want to say it was 4.4 or 4.5, 4.4, I believe, but he's a big 6'5" ex receiver guy. So for him to move like that, he was good. The gauntlet drill was smooth. He stayed on the line, caught everything. Um, Watching him, I was impressed, and it made me go watch his tape. And he was definitely a true X, big body, but got separation, was fast, got past the defense, caught everything, had great hands. Excuse me. Made tough catches, contested catches. Just a very underrated guy, I believe, coming out of the Big 12 that maybe the Patriots could get in the second round, early third round. I think he's going to be a top 100 pick. So I would be pretty satisfied with working with Jaden Higgins as a project at that X, because if you sure that position up, maybe you don't have to reach for a Tatora McMillan or T Mac. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but you don't have to reach for him because you could get somebody like Jaden Higgins in the later rounds. QBs, I think obviously the top two QBs didn't perform. Cam Ward and Shadir Sanders, they were there, but they didn't do any of the drills, didn't run, didn't throw, didn't do anything. And that's kind of what you predict from guys who feel like they're going to be the top 5 picks. Drake May didn't do it at the combine either. His pro day was where he really shined, and I think that's what Cam Ward and Shadir Sanders are going to do. So not too much there. I don't really think any of the QBs really showed anybody anything that would make them rise. Jackson Dart had a good combine. I think Quinn's was okay. Um, Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. All the guys just looked average. I think the craziest story to come from the quarterbacks is that Dylan Gabriel was only 5'11". I don't think I knew that going into this, so I think that hurts his draft stock, because I didn't see him as elite already, and now he's short. So yeah, it's pretty much it on QBs, man. I think the combine is starting to become less about the people performing, except for those kind of later round guys who put good tape out there on the combine and show good speed, surprising speed or surprising strength, and more about the stories that come out of the combine for like media or for teams, like the little whispers that go on at the combine, or you know who's doing drills, who's not, who's throwing, who's running, who's not, this, that, and the third. I think that's more so what the combine has kind of become, is less about the top tier talent having any kind of showcase, and more about the later round guys getting on TV and showing what they can do, and then the stories and the whispers that come out of that, because all the coaches and agents and players are all meeting up and talking about free agency and draft and trades and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's more so what the combine has become, but it's always still a good watch. It's always still enjoyable to see something football related in February and in March. Because we don't, we're in a kind of dead zone until April, and then obviously into the summer when they get into training camp and stuff like that. So it's pretty much it for the combine. Travis Hunter was there too. He spoke. Um, Very interesting. They said, or he said, with his meeting with the Patriots went good. Mike Vrabel said that when he talked to him, he said, "Hey, you're not the only guy that played, both sides of the ball," because Vrabel played defense primarily, but would come in and catch touchdowns for the Patriots. So I thought that was interesting, just a good laugh. And maybe that, shows that Vrabel liked the guy enough to, bust his balls and make a joke. Um, and that if he's there at 4, they're going to run that card up to Goodell and take him and figure out what to do with him. So interesting little nugget there about Travis Hunter. But going into that, let's talk about Mike Vrabel and Elliot Wolf's conference press conferences at the combine. Mike Vrabel's was solid. Sounded kind of like his introductory press conference. He kind of laid out his expectations of what he want his team to be. Um, taking out the entitlement. Tough, fast players. A lot of coach speak, but it sounded like he commanded a room. He sounded like he has a plan. He has a vision for his team. And that's always a good thing as opposed to last year with Gerard Mayo, tough, fast, strong players. His coach speak as a new coach and Mike Vrabel's coach speak as an experienced coach sound a little bit different. It sounds like Mike Vrabel knows exactly what he's about to do with this team because he's built a team before and he has the people around him, Ryan Cowden and Stretch, to build a team. And it's different hearing it from somebody who's done it before because from my lifetime, my only examples are Bill Belichick, who's the greatest ever, and then Gerard Mayo, who was a first year head coach. So it was pretty relieving to hear, Mike Vrabel just sound calm, cool, collected, but commanding and like he has a plan. Um, Whereas on the other side, and Mike Vrabel was speaking relatively positive about the direction of the team and things like that. He was talking about forward, the team's going to look different, this, that, and the third. Um, Whereas on the other side, Elliot Wolf, the quasi GM of the team, he kind of came in with a more somber tone. He sounded like his voice was crackling, like he was nervous to be up there. And maybe that's why they don't have him talk much because we haven't heard him talk in about a year. So maybe that's why they don't have him talk much. But he sounded like his voice was crackling, like he was nervous. And it was kind of somber. He was like, "Yeah, last year it was on me. I built the roster, and it was bad. We didn't have enough intel on the guys that we brought in free agency, and um, we didn't get the most out of our rookies, and this, that, and it was all negative about last year, which could be looked at as a good and bad thing. Maybe he's just wanted to reflect on what happened and um let everybody know that he knows that what he did wasn't the best. So now he's gonna go try to make it right. And you know, a lot of us Patriots fans don't have a lot of hope that he could do that. A lot of us are wondering why he's even still here, based on the job that he did last year. It was terrible, and the only thing that he got right was Drake May, and that was a gimme. He was a third quarterback in a three quarterback draft. So different tones between Mike and Elliot, and the question that everybody was wondering was who's going to have final say. And when Mike was asked, he said, "I wouldn't be here if I didn't have, uh, you know, say on the roster. He wouldn't be here." Whereas Elliot Wolf said that he has final say on the roster. A lot of people are speculating that it's contractual and that he has to say that because in his contract it says that he has final say. Um, So yeah, those are the differences between Mike Vrabel's press conference and Elliot Wolf's press conference. I'm actually fine if I never hear Elliot Wolf speak again unless he does something egregious and has to come answer for it. But um, one interesting thing that Elliot Wolf said is that there's not, when he said he has final say, he said there's not going to be Mike Vrabel guys or Elliot Wolf guys. There's going to be Patriots guys. So I'm interested to see what that means and what that looks like because I don't know if Mike Vrabel and Elliot Wolf share a vision on the type of players that they like. I haven't nothing that Elliot Wolf did last year led me to believe that he knows how to build a team. Like, if I'm being honest. And another interesting thing that he said, which I wanted to get into, was he said they put too much on Jalen Polk, the second round receiver's plate. If you've watched any of my podcasts, you know how I feel about Jalen Polk and his performance and his attitude towards his performance and his bravado when he speaks as if he's done anything in this league. Um, and it kind of echoes what Steve Smith Sr. said, which let's not get into Steve Smith Sr. That was a crazy thing that happened this past week. But um, Steve Smith Sr. said, yeah, they had him doing too much. When they didn't know what they were doing offensively, they tried to have him at XZ slot, whatever, moving, doing this, basically trying to be the savior of the team as a second round receiver, which I get it, right? But if you're a talented player, you're a talented player. Dropping passes has nothing to do with a bunch of things being on your plate, playbook wise or play wise, right? They're lining you up at X or lining you up at Z, whatever, whatever. If that is a lot to digest, that's fine. But catching the ball has nothing to do with that. If you are in the spot that you are supposed to be from X or from Z or from the slot, and the ball is thrown to you and you drop it, that is not, there's too much on my plate. That is dropping passes. That is, you're not as good as you think you are. That is, you need to get in the lab and fix yourself, fix your game. That's what that means. I don't understand the cop out from all these people, Elliot Wolf and Stevenson Sr., about Jalen Polk. He had 12 catches for 86 yards in a season as a second round pick. It doesn't get much worse than that. It just doesn't. And regardless on if he didn't know what he, or they put too much in his plate and the offense didn't know what they were doing, other guys excelled. Pop Douglas had a career year. Kayshawn Booty had a career year. You don't hear those guys complaining, or you don't hear people saying like, "Oh, the Patriots didn't know what they were doing, so they didn't have those guys in advantageous situations." No, the receiver core as a whole is pretty bad, but those guys made the most of their roles in the offense. I don't think they were. I don't think Jalen Polk was the only one that had to move around or do out of position things. He was just the worst at it, and I'm really hopeful that he's going to take the year two leap because I don't hate the guy, and he has a, you know, the kind of prototype like Jacoby Myers' body, and we were all hoping that he could kind of be that player for the Patriots, and if he can be, that's going to be awesome. So I'm tired of really hearing about the cop outs or the excuses for Jalen Polk. I just want to see him put better performances on tape. And obviously as a second round pick, he's got to catch more than 12 passes for 80 some yards in a season. He's got to be better. And I think he will be. And I think that Josh McDaniels is going to unlock more out of Jalen Polk just because he's a great coach and, better wide receivers, better coaches for everybody around the board at all positions, I think is going to increase everybody's productivity with Josh McDaniels at the helm. So let me get off my soapbox about Jalen Polk, but I'm tired of hearing about the excuses, man. I'm just ready to see what he's going to do next year. Um, yeah, that's all we got for Mike Vrabel and Elliot Wolf. The last thing that I wanted to get into was, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the NFLPA report cards, right? Let's talk about where the Patriots graded in the NFLPA report. Let me get this pulled up here. You guys want to take a wild guess where they were? 31st out of 32 teams. Your New England Patriots ranked on the NFLPA report card. Now, a lot of you might not have a single idea what that means or what that is. And it's basically they get about 1,000 players to rank their prospective teams on a couple of different aspects of their teams. Um, and it's bad. It's bad. Some of the notes here was that they managed to improve like family facilities, which received an F minus last year. But still the weight room and the locker rooms are outdated. And funny enough, the Patriots have their own plane, and 39% of the players feel, or only 39% of the players feel they have comfortable amount of space on flights when traveling to games. They said the plane is dated, it lacks Wi-Fi, and still has ashtrays in the seats. So that sounds like a plane from way back in the day, which is, crazy to think. Now, I heard Scott Zolak say that his experience flying was fine. He had plenty of space. Obviously, he's an older guy, so he may not be concerned with Wi-Fi. And he said he never saw the ashtrays. So I'm interested to see if they're going to renovate the plane or, add Wi-Fi or, hell, get a new plane. I don't know. He's a billionaire. So let's get into some of these grades, right? So treatment, excuse me, sorry. Treatment of families got a C plus. Food and dining got a C. Nutritionist and dietitian got a B. Locker room got a C minus. Training room C minus. Training staff C plus. Weight room got an F. Strength coaches got a B. Team travel also got an F. Head coach, surprisingly enough, got a B plus, which was the highest grade out of everything on here. And ownership got a D. You know, putting all those things together got them to that 31st out of 32 teams. Now, being a bad team and not being able to win games is one thing, but if your own players feel this way about your facilities and the team as a whole and ownership, that's insane. One big part of that grade is that the players didn't feel like ownership had a commitment to winning or building a competitive team. Basically calling the ownership cheap, basically. They don't spend money on stuff that would build a competitive team. And that's a very interesting take from the players. And, they've been saying this for years that the crafts are cheap. A lot of people tried to put it on that Bill Belichick didn't want to spend money. But a lot of people within the organization and kind of the media around it have started to feel like it's actually Robert Kraft who is actually the one that's cheap. So this is going to be interesting to see how the Crafts view this NFLPA report. I believe last year they were like 26th. So now that they're 31st, it's going to be interesting. But I think, Mike Vrabel coming in will help that. And obviously, the Crafts are investing in a new $50 million facility, which is probably going to, I think it's going to be done in 2026. But better weight room, better locker room, all those things. So I'm sure these grades are going to rise. But 31st out of 32 teams is definitely alarming. Yeah. So all I got on NFLPA report. Like I said, I wasn't going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Um, I'm recording this episode pretty late on a Sunday. It's almost 10:30, so I should probably be getting into bed. But I just wanted to give you guys some content at the conclusion of the combine, which is why I waited so late to record. So now let's get into our music minute, where we just take a minute or two to just talk about some new music that's come out. Nothing exciting for me. Personally, I'm still kind of listening to P&D and Drake albums, some sexy songs for you. New song 10 by Offset. Whereas I don't really align with the content, but the song was great. It's a good outing by Offset. And that's really it. Nothing new that's come out that I was really crazy about. I haven't downloaded anything new to my phone, at least. I'm still running back that P&D and Drake album. So if you guys got some new music that you've heard or music that you're just into right now, drop them in the comments. If to know me is to know that I love music and that my music taste is all over the place. And I will probably record one full podcast episode just talking about music and my love for music and what it's done for me, what it does for me, and kind of my range of songs, right? Like I really maybe I'll do a next episode. I'll let you guys know my top 25 most played on my phone and y'all will be like, "What the hell? Like how is your music taste is, different?" But that's all we got for tonight's episode 7 of the Patriots podcast. Appreciate you guys' patience. Sorry, my energy's a little low. Like I said, it's a little bit late. I'm tired a little bit, but um, the legal tampering period for the NFL starts on March 10th, which is next Monday. So I probably won't record an episode this upcoming weekend. I'll probably wait till the legal tampering period as well as free agency to start, so that I can see what kind of moves that are made around the league, especially for, the Patriots, and bring y'all the episode once we kind of know some of the people that they've either signed, traded for, released, all of that. So again, episode 7 of the Patriot Podcast. I'm your host, Beach.com, Beethoven, whatever you want to call me. Signing out till next time.